The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 4,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 110 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Finally, are you ready?
But that's not me, I'm the Switchblade baby.
You, and especially you. Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Goodbye. Write it down, you like writing things down.
I am your favorite podcaster's favorite podcast. I am
Omega.
The Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast.
That is right, guys. I am your favorite podcaster's favorite podcast. And today, I am being joined by another Patreon member, another member of the Omega Club. You will find her through Villainess, Havoc on Twitter. She loves a bad guy. It is Courtney Summers. I'm delighted to bring Courtney on today for my Wrestle Kingdom special episode. She is a Patreon member, like I said, at the Omega tier, which means she can come on and pick a topic to discuss of her choosing. And she's picked an absolute corker. One of her favourite wrestlers is Killer Kross, so today we are going to discuss how we would bring him into the insane world of New Japan. A little bit of fantasy booking there. Great choice, Courtney. As well as preview this year's Wrestle Kingdom. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Courtney is an incredible part of the wrestling community on Twitter. I love interacting with her already. And I think you're all going to enjoy her on the Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast for the first time. But to join me yourself on the podcast, like Courtney, like JPQ on Monday, you simply go to patreon.com/Omega Luke, where you can pledge to become part of the Omega Club, just like those two have, where you will receive a lot of rewards, including extra content, early access to the interviews I do, and of course, joining me on the podcast as well. Speaking of early access to interviews, I very recently interviewed Jazz, former WWE and WWF Women's Champion and current NWA Champion, and that will be available on the Patreon page for Patreons only as an early access reward today. So let's get this thing started then. Over to me and Courtney.
What's happening, wrestling fans? I'm Chuck Mambo, gnarliest wrestler in the world, telling you to subscribe to the Omega Luke Wrestling Podcast.
A massive welcome to her first appearance on Omega Luke. She is the Twitter advocate of Killer Kross, a J-weight kind of girl, and I am very proud to say that she is also part of the Omega Club on Patreon at the highest tier, the Omega tier. It is Courtney Summers, aka at Villainous Havoc on Twitter. Courtney, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fabulous. Had an amazing Christmas week. I hope yours was awesome as well.
It was brilliant. Thank you very much for asking. I'm glad you had a good Christmas. This episode, we are recording this a week before Wrestle Kingdom. I'm very excited, and this is going to be my Wrestle Kingdom special, so I'm very glad to have you on. I think you've picked pretty much a perfect topic and discussion, really, to talk about for a Wrestle Kingdom special. It's great to have you on here. I'm a big fan of your Twitter. You are rather entertaining and quite influential in the wrestling community. So I was over the moon when you pledged to my Patreon to choose your own topic to come on and discuss on Omega Luke. You did tease that maybe that the fantasy booking title will look a bit more tasty in the future. But today you've picked an awesome subject and at a perfect time. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
So today we are going to be sort of fantasy booking and discussing how we would introduce Killer Kross into the New Japan roster, as well as how we would also book Jay White going forward. So I'm a big fan of Jay White. I met Jay White myself this summer. Lovely bloke, actually, considering his character. So that was very pleasing. Have you ever met any of these two?
I haven't met Jay. It's a life goal. It's a mission because I love him. Yeah. I am legit jealous of his heel heat. The fact that he had those Japanese fans who were normally so quiet and respectable, almost at riot status during the G1, was just amazing. I'm sitting there watching this guy who's 25, 26 years old and already has that crowd just in the palm of his hand. Like, he just knows. All he has to do is give one look or do one thing, and that's it. They're in an uproar.
Definitely. And I think it helped that he defeated Tanahashi and Okada sort of by cheating in his first two matches. That definitely got the heat on him, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. That was amazing. I'm sitting at home, and actually over the past couple of weeks, I actually went and relived his entire 2018 on World. And you can really see from the beginning of this year where he was, probably feeling a little bit of the pressure on, the inside from having to take this mantle upon him of the new front runner that they're trying to put up.
Yeah.
To see him transform into this young man who is confident in his skin and who knows who he is and what he's supposed to be as a character. It's really a cool process to get to see. And I was just delighted just watching this the other night, just seeing, the transformation. And it really did take place around San Francisco G1 time.
Yeah.
Is really when you saw, the light bulb flicker on in his head, and he kind of figured out where he needed to go as far as character and as far as maybe even, personally as well. Because I remember earlier this year, a lot of the Twitter stuff was vicious that he was probably having to deal with.
Yeah.
And, just to see him be able to move past that was great, because a lot of younger people, wouldn't be able to handle the kind of pressure that he's under. So, for me, it's a lot more of a respect thing with Jay, because he is so young and just doing so well and knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, definitely. Because you got to remember as well, like, it was only a year ago that he came back to New Japan from his excursion in America with Ring of Honor. He was a young boy before that. We see him when we look back at old clips on New Japan World. You see him in the background. It's very weird to see that guy now with the Jay White that we know and love now as the Switchblade, the knife pervert, as a lot of people like to call him. I think it's amazing, really, how a year later he is against Okada in one of, I'd say, the main events of Wrestle Kingdom, because, to be fair, every match at Wrestle Kingdom now is an unmissable match. So you have to really sort of decipher your main events, and we know obviously Omega versus Tanahashi is going to be the main event for the title, like they normally have. But I think this match will be the second to end match, and it's amazing to see how far and how fast he's come in that year from being introduced with those videos sort of tormenting Tanahashi a year ago.
Yeah, and just a year back from excursion and just what he has done in a year, it's probably almost not even heard of.
Yeah.
Like, you're already facing, who was the ace of New Japan for 4 years or so, in Okada.
Yeah.
In any match with Okada in it, in my eyes, is a main event instantaneously, just because Okada's in it. So I definitely agree with your sentiment there. And this year, the card is just stacked from, like, there is no chance for you to go get that morning extra cup of coffee you're going to need at 5 o'clock in the morning if you're in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be no time. Just, it's going to be this. Like, I have titled Wrestle Kingdom Day Wrestling Christmas like wrestling fans, like we get our Christmas a few days later.
Yeah.
And it's Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
Because this year's card is just so phenomenal from top to bottom, and just the level of talent that is there in New Japan right now. It's just beyond me.
Yeah.
You know, like I've looked at 2018, the year of wrestling as a whole, and I just keep sitting here like that little kid in the back of the car after the dentist appointment. Like, is this real life? Is this really going on? Do we have, you know, a potential of a new federation starting with All Elite Wrestling? You know, what happened with All In?
Oh.
Everything. With the rise of New Japan, it's just, we are blessed as wrestling fans at this point.
Not to mention that G1. I mean, this is the first G1 that I've managed to watch from the beginning to the end. I think I've said quite a few times on here, I only really got back into wrestling sort of 18 months ago. I caught matches of last year's G1 because New Japan was sort of the first company that got me back into wrestling. So this year, the G1 this year was my first G1 from start to end, and it sort of took over my life, I must admit. You know, it was like 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. I loved it.
Yeah, the G1 basically turned my husband into a widower during the G1 because I was up that early, messed up my sleep cycle, and it still hasn't gotten back to normal because I'm friends with people in the UK and Europe. I'm friends with people in Japan. So now a third of my body clock lives in Tokyo, New Orleans, and London now.
Yeah.
So now you perpetually live sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And just fueled by coffee.
I think I'm quite lucky, really. I'm sort of in the middle of these time zones. So if I want to catch some New Japan, I have to get up sort of about 8 o'clock to watch it. And if I want to watch some WWE, I've just got to stay up a little bit later. So it's not too bad as the UK. As much as the UK people complain, I'd much rather have it the way that we do rather than the way that you guys do. If you want to watch a New Japan show, there's no point in you staying up late. You've got to get up early, and very early.
Yep.
So let's talk then a little bit more about you. How long, Courtney, have you been a wrestling fan?
Since I was 3 years old, and I still have this memory of being in my little onesie as like an almost 3-year-old and seeing Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Miss Elizabeth get married, and just remembering that epic moment of just the fairy tale and the glamour and everything, and how beautiful Liz was and how just amazing Macho Man was. And ever since that moment, just wrestling clicked with me, and it's always been my first love in life. I've always loved it, no matter how much my mom would tell me, you know, like, you're a girl, you don't need to be watching this, you know. I would always, you know, fight back harder and want to watch even more.
Yeah. And
what led me to Japanese wrestling is actually Naomichi Marufuji from Japan, who's Noah's ace, of course. And I saw one of his matches when I was about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was. I'm thinking it may have been an old school Noah match from when he was really young. And I saw this wrestling and I said, oh my gosh, I must have more of this. So I would just live off of a slow drip of whatever I could find on YouTube or wherever. And then when New Japan World got started up, I was like a kid in a candy store.
So Noah was like your first introduction into Japanese wrestling?
Yeah. And I just lived off the slow drip because, you know, they have no streaming service. And at this point, the way that we're getting our content here in the U.S. is by sharing Google Drive links, you know, streaming in rabbit rooms online, whatever we can do to get the content. Because, you know, like there was that big scandal all those years ago with Noah and the Japanese mob. And, you know, there's no need to get, you know?
Yeah.
But
I know what you mean. And I like what you said earlier about your mum sort of saying, you know, you're a girl, you shouldn't be watching wrestling. since I got back into wrestling the last sort of years, at first it did take me to a shock of how many women are into wrestling and love it. And when now it's just become like a norm. Like if I write a tweet, I'm more likely to get more tweets back from women like yourself, like Hisami and Amy on Twitter, who are lovers of wrestling. And I thought to myself about a year ago, I thought this is very strange because like when I was growing up, no women in my class when at school or anything liked wrestling, and my sister never got into it and stuff. But it sort of makes sense to me because wrestling, when people say to me, why do you like wrestling, it's predetermined. And I think, well, yeah, it's like a soap opera but with fighting. It's violent soap operas to me. So when people are watching sitcoms like Friends and stuff, that's all predetermined. But this is storytelling with violence. So it makes sense to me that women love wrestling just as much as men do and get into it just as much as men do, because it's storytelling at the end of the day. And I think it's amazing how many women are into wrestling, and people like yourself who are very vocal on Twitter and have great opinions of wrestling on Twitter, and hopefully more women get into wrestling. And it's great when I go to wrestling shows now and I see half the crowd are now women. It's great for me.
Yeah, and actually New Japan actually had a lot of press recently touting their success with women, how 40% of their audience is women, and they are appealing to the women. And with all the handsome that New Japan provides, with these Rolling Stone features they did with Kenny and with Jay and with Tanahashi, and those photo books, the infamous Show and Yo photo book that was made famous in the Jay White Ambi interview with Alicia Atout. Yeah. They are doing it right, and they know that, hey, women we appreciate just as much as the men do. When Peter or Miho come out, all the men are going crazy, so this is our chance as women to have a company that caters to us and caters to you guys at the same time. Like we both get with New Japan in particular, I find it's more like Game of Thrones in a way, because if you go back and you watch a lot of these storylines, you see the foreshadowing after the fact. Yeah. Now you see the different things, like Tama Tonga hitting a version of the Blade Runner back all the way in San Francisco when the big betrayal took place. Like that was a little sign. Yeah. And women in particular, we love that stuff because that gets our minds working and it makes us think harder than, here are just two guys in the ring that are just going to go at it just for the sake of violence, Yeah,
the long-term like storylines.
Yeah, with Omega and Okada and how long it took him to win that belt. And we all had our ugly cry moment when he won that belt. I remember I cried for a week because everybody just kept posting that picture over and over again. Every time I'd see that picture with Ibushi and the Bucks and him, it would just make me get misty-eyed because...
With happiness, with joy, or with sadness because of Okada losing it?
With happiness, because Kenny had worked so hard and busted his butt so hard for that title win. Yeah. And went through all that heartbreak and all that frustration of when he thought he had Okada last time but didn't. It was kind of like that Odyssey type storyline. Get that payoff.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the best thing about New Japan as well. The booking, the storylines, the slow sort of the payoffs after such a long time, like the Omega one. I think Tetsuya Naito fans are still waiting for that day when Naito gets his big payoff, and when he does, again, it's going to be an amazing thing. But that's going to be over a course of a good 3 years of Naito fans being with Naito being as big as what he is now, compared to Naito when he first won the IWGP belt. So I know exactly what you mean by that. The long-term storylines is definitely something that I love about New Japan. What do you currently watch right now? Is it just New Japan are you into? Is it anything more Japanese wrestling or anything from the US or UK?
UK, definitely. I love Progress. I'll forever be an ultra. I love that company. I found them around 2013 because I was going through YouTube and just, searching out, because I'll do this. I'll try to find, different independent talent that, maybe not a lot of people know of that are here, that are in Europe or in Japan or wherever they may be. And I see this promo by this guy named Jimmy Havoc. And Jimmy Havoc was my gateway drug into the United Kingdom independent wrestling scene. And I would find out what companies he was with, and I would get the pivot share service. At one point in time, I had, just to keep up with Jimmy's work, I had IPW, ICW, Progress. It was out of control because I had fell that hard for the UK scene. It was everything that America was missing at that point.
Yeah.
Because at this point, America wasn't as hot on the independent scene as the UK was. The UK was just on fire, and it's still a raging inferno to this day. It was underground. It was alternative. They used adult language. They didn't insult your intelligence. And it was, things that you felt were age appropriate to how old you were. Because at this point, I'm in my mid-20s. So, of course, I love alternative metal, punk music, and Progress in particular just pulled me in with their music choices and
that's perfect. Yeah.
Their character direction and everything that they had. Also, I watch Impact, of course.
For one
love
certain
their
guy.
storyline. And he's the reason why I ended up getting the $10 subscription service so I can still watch Impact, by the way. I even commented on his Instagram post. I was legitimately freaking out. Like, I was sitting there thinking, no, this isn't how this works. But I watch Impact. I love Ring of Honor. I'm part of the crew of Honor Club Girls, and we love Matt Taven. We love the Kingdom, of course.
Yep.
And New Japan, Noah. I'm getting more into Noah on the regular now because now I've got a constant source of the content, because that was a problem before.
Oh yeah, definitely.
With Noah anyway. And I love Noah there's a few guys over there in particular that Hasami and Miriam helped me get into. Yohei, even though I'm kind of upset with him right now. Hayata, and of course Marufuji. And it's just a great time and a joy to be a wrestling fan right now because there is so much content. Like, I told my husband one day, I said, you remember that episode of Being the Elite where the WWE supposedly kidnapped Hangman Page and they forced him to watch all the WWE Network stuff? I said, at this point in time, with the amount of original wrestling content there is, you could probably do that to someone and try to show them every single hour and second of wrestling content. And even if you did that to them for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they probably still wouldn't see all the wrestling that there is out there.
No.
That's how blessed we are as a generation that we have the technology to be able to access New Japan World or a pivot share service like a Progress or the WWE Network if that's more your style.
Yeah, we are completely spoiled. It is true.
We are spoiled freaking rotten. And that's why it gets me so aggravated when I see a lot of, people that tend to especially focus on WWE and the negativity. There's so much good out there in the wrestling world. Why focus on that? Understand that it's easy to, get an audience based off of just griping about Vince McMahon's booking decisions every week. I understand that that's easy. But, why do that and not dedicate your time to something that is even better?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that. I spent this last year, obviously I got very into New Japan on the road to Wrestle Kingdom last year, being the time that I sort of got into it. And I spent the last year trying so hard to get as many people as I can who hate on WWE and watch it and every week and say, I don't know why I watch this shit. It's not entertaining. I don't like what's going on, or that's a load of bollocks. Brock Lesnar this and Vince McMahon that. And I spent the last year telling people, you need to start watching New Japan. You need to do this. Progress is my next thing. I've got my friends watching New Japan. I'm happy now. They're all excited for Wrestle Kingdom. They know all the names now. They're all happy with all the storylines. They love every event that they see. Progress is my next goal for my friends, because I got them to watch Chapter 80 with me last month when that happened. This month when we're recording, when that happened. That's my next goal now, to get everyone into Progress, because like you just said there, we're sport for choice, but it's not the same type of wrestling. You want to watch punk rock and roll wrestling, you go to Progress. You want to watch the strong style, you watch some New Japan. You want to watch something fun, something a bit quirky, you like comic books, that sort of stuff, you like superheroes, Chikara. There's so much out there for us now. And like you said, we are completely spoiled. Podcast-wise, you obviously listen to Omega Luke. What other podcasts do you like to listen to? I've seen you around the Wilfred Watches chats a few times. Is there any more that you like tuning into?
Gotta shout out my boys, Smart to Death. Love their show. Love Wilfred and everything that he does. Just his site where he has the New Japan calendar up, just everything that he has had helped me actually be able to get full time into New Japan.
Yeah.
Also, there's another podcast. It's called the Being the Elite This Is Awesome, or Watching the Elite This Is Awesome podcast, where they actually go through and they have done a watch along of the entire Being the Elite series. And they did this as a project up to All In, and they've still been keeping up with it. And it's pretty cool to get their commentary on Being the Elite, which I'm actually kind of jealous that I didn't think of that idea first, because I will sit there and watch Being the Elite marathons. And my husband is like, I swear, if I got to hear about Kenny and his DM one more time. But I listen to that. I listen to some of the more old school ones, like Don Tony and Kevin Castle, Sala Monster, Going in Raw, Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp, and his amazing work that he has continued to do. You know, just knocking it out the park this year.
Yeah.
When a certain Uncle Dave has been very wrong on some things.
Yeah.
This year. Very wrong.
Yeah, good old Uncle Dave. I'm quite interested to see what Uncle Dave scores this Wrestle Kingdom after this last year, because there's been some very weird choices, like you say. There's been some 5-star matches that I was quite surprised with, but there's also been some 4.5-star matches which I was shouting my roof off because they were 5 stars for me. But okay, let's go into Killer Kross then. Tell me when you first seen him and how this love for him come about for you.
Okay, so Impact started doing this storyline of there's this mystery attacker who's laying out everybody from Jimmy Jacobs to, Petey Williams to everybody backstage at Impact, and he's leaving this card behind which is basically a target symbol in a way. And so I'm intrigued at this point. Who is this monster that Impact is bringing in? Who is this guy? And so I start trying to find information online, of course, because that's what I do. If I want to know more, I'm going to find it.
Yeah.
So then they reveal him on an episode where he's dressed as a cop and he's arresting Petey Williams because Petey Williams is accused of being the attacker when it really isn't Petey. It's, of course, Kross.
Yeah.
And so they do this reveal of him, and they show him holding up the card with his centaur tattoo on the back, with those insane sick tattoos of his showing. And that was it. He just had to say, you should probably call the police. And with that line, I was hooked. And so I start watching every week. And what I do is I like to lurk. Like, I don't like to, start interacting or trying to interact with a wrestler right away. I just like to observe and see how they interact with their fans, how they are,
Yeah,
on
I'm
screen.
exactly the same, to be fair. Yeah.
Like, I just want to step back and see, because if I give you my endorsement, it means something. It's coming from a place of sincerity and authenticity. It's not just bullcrap to kiss your ass.
Yeah.
It's because I really legitimately think that you deserve the freaking world.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that. And then it got to a point where just me rewatching his clips on Impact's YouTube channel wasn't enough. So then one day I decided to shoot him a tweet, or I tag him in a tweet, not even thinking that I'm going to get a response from it. And he tells and asks, where can I see some more of this guy's work? And so he links me to his website, and get this, he set up his own website where he has a black book of his upcoming dates. He has all of his social media, all of his merchandise, even a backstory on the Kross character itself. And pretty much all of his work up to this point is chronologically in order on his YouTube channel. And all of this is in one place.
Yeah.
Which is so smart.
Oh, yeah.
Because not a lot of guys are doing that. And not a lot of guys are having the foresight to think, okay, one day I'm going to be on TV and everybody's going to be like, who is Killer Kross?
Yeah. And it's perfect for people like you
him?
being introduced to him and sort of almost like becoming mesmerized by this person. Who is this? And wanting to know more. It is perfect for someone like you for him to have that. For them to go, here you go. And then that is, you can search that. There's, everything that's on there and study it and get to know that person so much more, to then fall in love with that person even more as a character and to know the backstory and their upcoming events and something like that. I don't think we see that enough from wrestlers.
No, we don't. And the fact that he has pretty much his entire backlog of promos that he has done in chronological order that he adds to constantly, and he's always creating new content, new highlight packages, everything. Dude is constantly putting out content and material. And I sat there and I watched that YouTube channel playlist probably about 3 or 4 times, just getting to learn the character and learn more about him. And I still have not been able to crack the code with him.
Yeah.
And that's what I love with him, is that you can't crack the code. Like, once you think you have all the answers, he changes the questions.
Yeah.
And I love a character like that, because in this day and age, there are so many carbon copies out there that are the same wrestler with the same gear, same hair, same everything. And it all gets lost because there is so much wrestling out there. But Kross, no matter what type of box you try to put him in, he always finds a way out of it.
Yeah. He's very interactive on Twitter, which I really like about him as well. But it's almost like very mysterious, the way he does it.
It is. With him, I find, with his interactions with me, like sometimes he does open up and he gets, kind of a little more personal. And then other times it's straight in character.
Yeah.
It's, and I like to try to play along with him sometimes, when I try to, push the fact that Impact is going to be on tonight. Like, I'll try to unleash my inner Kross on Twitter,
Yeah.
and kind of style it that way, because I think this guy could easily be the future of this business, given the right opportunity, given all of his hard work and what he has done up to this point.
Yeah.
With everything from his legitimate combat sports background, bare knuckle boxing in Canada, to almost going pro, but then deciding, no, I want to, pursue my dream of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Instead. it's just...
Yeah, he's awesome. And he's probably one of the guys from the indie scene that I want to get on the podcast as a guest the most, because I'm so intrigued by him. I don't have the subscription for Impact Wrestling, so I see certain events. I've seen Slammiversary and things like that. But he's one of the guys that are really intrigued me by. What do you think about his sort of partnership with Scarlett Bordeaux? Are you a fan of Scarlett Bordeaux, or are you one of these? Are you a jealous person of Scarlett Bordeaux because of the way she has Killer Kross?
Let me tell you something. Scarlett Bordeaux is queen, and anybody that says otherwise, me and you got a problem. Because I have loved Scarlett since she was in House of Truth, which is way back in the day. Matt Taven, Truth Martini, Jay Lethal, that group, whenever she was one of the House of Truth hotties.
Yeah.
I loved her back then. And the fact that Scarlett, somebody that's a longtime favorite of mine, has now joined forces with Killer Kross, something that actually me and Carrie, and I think Christina, we actually sat there one day on Twitter and we went through like who we would put Kross with, because I put 2 and 2 together. I was looking at a picture of Kross and I said, oh my God, natural born killers. And I put the poster of the movie next to this picture on Twitter, and then it started the conversation of who would be the Maori.
Yeah.
And I, of course, said Scarlett Bordeaux. I said it's perfect. It's like Bonnie and Clyde. She sets him up, he knocks him down.
I think you are the reason they are together, Courtney. I really do. You never know. You never know. And Impact is one of those companies that they do, watch their social media. They watch everything. So, I like to kind of sit back and just say, maybe so. Yeah.
Maybe so.
No, I'm also a big fan of Scarlett Bordeaux. Obviously, because she is also one of the most beautiful women on the planet. Is another reason why I like Scarlett Bordeaux. But I really do like that partnership that they have. Okay, so this is now your floor, Courtney. How would you sort of fantasy book Killer Kross being introduced into New Japan?
Okay, so first off, straight out the gate, we've got to say that he is a part of Suzuki-gun.
Yeah.
Because him and Suzuki both have the Pancrase background. Both stables have both him and all the members of the stable have a penchant for hyperviolence.
Yep.
Young lion murder of anyone on the roster that gets in their way.
Yeah.
And it's a match made in heaven or hell, depending on which side of Suzuki-gun you're on.
Yeah, gotta agree with you. It's perfect.
And also, not only that, him and Lance Hoyt and Killer Elite Squad have already worked together in FSW in Las Vegas. They're already familiar with each other. They already know each other. So he's got kind of that built-in person to be, the mediator when he does get there as well behind the scenes. And also, there's Killer Elite Squad. Killer Kross. On,
perfect.
So the way that I would do this is I would kind of do this in the same vein that they did the Switchblade videos. But except for with this, what you're going to do is you're going to have this room set up with all these clocks and old school TVs with different clips of different propaganda promoting doomsday and the apocalypse coming, right? Because Killer Kross is the new beginning. He is the unholy father of time, right?
Love that.
He told me. So what you're going to do is you're going to have these videos show of this just room, and you just see this shadowy figure, and you don't know who it is. And the face is not going to be revealed up until Kross has revealed himself, kind of like they did with Switchblade. So you're going to show these videos equidistant time spaces from each other, like one month, then one the next month, then one the next month.
Yeah.
And you're going to start with 11 the clock is going to end on the screen with a clock at 11:57 for the first one. And then it's going to progress till we hit midnight. And say midnight would be Wrestle Kingdom this year.
Yeah.
And you've got Suzuki and Killer Elite Squad victorious with the Never 6-man belts, right?
Yep.
So that video hits, and of course you've got Suzuki and Killer Elite Squad playing dumb, like, who the hell is this dude? But then Kross comes down to the ring, just beats the holy hell out of whoever their fallen and prone opponent is.
Yep.
Plus the Young Lions. Suzuki starts laughing. That signature evil laugh of his.
Yeah, that is creepy, by the way.
Like, I know who this guy is. We know who he is. He's with us. And then that starts how I would do it up to this point if we're using current storylines as a guide.
Yeah.
And also what I would do is I would put Kross, put him with that Never open weight belt. And here's why. This serves two purposes. One, gets a belt on Kross. Two, elevates that belt because that belt has suffered a lot. And it needs somebody who is, pun very much intended, a killer to go on a killer run with that belt of 9 months of just annihilation and make people care about that belt again.
Yeah.
That's what those belts need. The belts like the IC title and the belts like the Never 6-man and the Never open weight title, they need runs like that. They need runs where somebody is just unstoppable so that people care more.
Definitely.
You know, we can't keep hot potato in these belts like this because that's how you get, you know, dilution of a title and what it means and what it's supposed to stand for.
Yeah.
The Never belt in particular already has competition even further because of the introduction of the U.S. title. So that's how I would do it.
It's very weird that you've said that because I have my notes here. And this is my very vague way of doing it. By the way, would you have Scarlett Bordeaux come in and join him as well? Or would you just have Killer Kross separate as his own person?
That depends. Because it depends on what image do you want to give him.
Yeah.
Do you want to give him just the straight psychopath who is capable of no human emotion? Or do you want to maybe give him that human emotion? It just depends on which character direction you want to go with. Personally, myself, I would maybe bring her in later. Start him off as full-blown Killer Kross who doesn't give a crap who he's got a dive bomb on his head to get what he wants. And then maybe bring her in, and then you have Miho and Scarlett in the same stable. Suzuki-gun
that's every man's
is
dream.
Truly Ichiban.
Yeah. That's perfect for me. I love that idea of, I think you've really hit the nail on the head there, because bring him in as this absolute murderous killer, like you said, win that belt, and then later on give him a bit of human character and add to his character, instead of when that, not to say it would get boring, but when you've played that killer person for long enough, then just add in Scarlett Bordeaux and giving him that bit of human emotion, because they're very like affectionate in the ring, I think just gives a completely different dynamic to him, and not make him relevant again, but changes him to make it different and interesting again. Like I said,
keeps it fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's very weird the way you've brought it in, because this is my notes. Okay, very vague way of doing it. I would bring him in at New Year's Dash, so a day after what you would, and I'd have Scarlett Bordeaux come out first during a match with Kota Ibushi and someone from Suzuki-gun, and I'd have Killer Kross come out through the crowd while Kota Ibushi is distracted by Scarlett Bordeaux, and I'd have him distracted and then attacked by Killer Kross. And I think the perfect person is Ibushi, because he has the never openweight match, which I think he will win at Wrestle Kingdom and have the belt. And then that way you can bring him into a fairly reasonably high regard, go in for a title without sort of leapfrogging the rest of the roster, who probably deserve to be up there with the other belts. And I'd probably have him eventually take the belt off Kota Ibushi. And then as the other Suzuki Goons, who I don't think Suzuki-gun is very weird. They don't have like huge single guy. They have Killer Elite Squad as tags. But Suzuki isn't exactly the biggest of guys, and Zack Sabre Jr. is more technically sound, although all three of them with Taichi is heavyweights. I think Killer Kross could be that huge singles guy. And like you said, he could elevate that never openweight belt and just go on a dominant reign with it. And I'd love to see that. That is very similar to how I would book him as well. So that's very weird that we've both done that.
That is weird. I just, great minds think alike, dude.
Oh, yes.
I mean, and that was my point too, is if I'm going to book this, I'm not going to sit here and get greedy and say, okay, the first thing he's doing is he's getting the IWGP heavyweight title, because that's not how that works.
He comes in, beats Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I try to, when I sit here and I try to think of something to book it, I sit here and think, you know, from all facets, how you can hit it. And that's one of those things where you can.
Yeah.
And it also leaves open a pathway for Naito and maybe the IC title that I hope that he wins from Jericho, because as much as I love Jericho and he's the GOAT and everything, unless he's going to be more dedicated to New Japan, we need that belt off of him. You know?
I could not agree more with you there. Could not agree more with you. I love Jericho to pieces, and what he does every year where he reinvents himself is amazing. But I love the fact he came to New Japan. I love the fact that he won the IC belt to begin with, because I thought we'd see more of him. But we didn't, and that is my only problem with it. I'd love to see Naito have his comeuppance at Wrestle Kingdom, win that belt back. And I don't want to see Jericho leave, by all means. I want him to stick around. I'd like to see him go against Okada, maybe go against Tanahashi, and go against all of the big guys from New Japan, but maybe stay away from the title picture.
Yeah. I think that's more of a fit for him than being necessarily a title holder there. Somebody that can go in and just have these amazing matches and these amazing feuds with all of your top stars, like you said, with Okada. Maybe even, this is one thought that I've had, Jericho versus Ibushi.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, you have like all these opportunities for all these great dream matches that we thought we would never get to see in a million years. I mean, if 5 years ago you would have told me, okay, Chris Jericho is going to be the Intercontinental Champion of New Japan, I would have asked you, what are you smoking? Because I want some. You know, at that point in time. Yeah. But now everything is so topsy-turvy, you know. And also, you know, like we've got to also keep a clear path for Switchblade too, because he's one guy that I really want to see with that IC belt.
Yeah. I'd like to see him with another belt, because any other belts, because the US title, when he won it off Omega, I was gutted, because obviously Omega at the time was my favourite wrestler. Sort of still is now. But I then sort of came to realise very quickly that, oh, they're pushing Omega for the main belt. That's fine. Yes, give the belt to Jay White. Lift him as a character. I wanted to see Jay White have that US belt all the way up until this Wrestle Kingdom. That's what I was hoping for. Obviously, we didn't get that. That's a shame. But the fact that he's in a main event storyline I am absolutely fine with. Now, we've really put the spotlight on Jay White these last few months since the G1, and I really love the way that they have booked him. Very weird how they went about it with the Gado and everything, sort of like disrespecting and going against Okada after all those years. But I'm fine with that. I never had anything wrong with that. I probably wouldn't have done that myself, but I wasn't against it by all stretch of the imaginations. But I love the fact that we had Okada being knocked down as the leader of Chaos, and we're still waiting to find out who the mole was and all of this sort of stuff, and the very clever way that they're doing. You got who are you saying it's going to be the mole?
I have a theory on the mole.
Okay.
And it has to do with something that Tama Tonga said on IG Live yesterday.
Right, okay.
When he was discussing the whole block party that they're having in New Jersey. And he basically insinuated that Chase and Yuge are on a mission.
Right.
And so my theory is that, like I said kind of in the beginning, that maybe there is no mole in Chaos, and maybe this is an evil plan to kind of get inside there and get inside everybody's head and have everybody looking sideways at each other.
Yeah, to make
not trusting each other, to make it implode. All the while, the real mole is right in front of our face, and Yujiro Takahashi and Chase on the case.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
And that's what I've thought. And I've also thought that maybe the mole is Yo. Because if you remember during the G1, Switchblade was trying to be the devil on his shoulder the entire G1. Trying to get him to cheat, trying to get him to use underhanded tactics. And towards the end, you kind of started to see that Yo was starting to get what Switchblade was saying.
Yeah.
And then in a backstage comment here recently, Yo said he was going to let everything out at the Tokyo Dome.
That's true.
And I said, oh my God. If it's you, Yo, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could handle that. And then there's also the theory that it could be Rocky.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I'm not sure about that one. My thinking is that it's going to be Yoshihashi. We haven't seen Yoshihashi for a while do anything, really. What's he done since the G1? Nothing.
Well, I mean, that's because he kind of pulled a Titus O'Neil and kind of injured himself almost grievously.
Oh God, that was so funny.
I was sitting here, I was laughing, and then I saw him busted open. I said, oh, no.
Yeah.
I said, oh, no, we can't laugh at this anymore. We can't laugh at this. You will go to hell for that.
Oh, I was gutted we didn't get a good camera angle of it, though.
Yeah, because everything that they've done ever since, they've just zoomed out really quick.
Yeah.
If you've seen the stuff that they posted on YouTube, they've cut that crap out.
Yeah.
And the funniest part of that whole thing was when, I can't remember who it was on commentary, on Japanese commentary, was like, oh, he fell. The stage is very steep. And
I think it was Chris Charlton. I think it might have been Chris Charlton. Maybe.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here dying.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to hell for this. But
my idea for Yoshihashi is that, one, he hasn't had much going on, so it would be good to put him in that spotlight. But two, he came through the Young Lion system exactly the same time as Okada. He also returned to New Japan roughly the same time as Okada. He's been very much in Okada's shadow. And I think it's the perfect person to use as a mole, because it's almost like, I've been in your shadow all this time. You've done nothing for me but hold me back. Now it's sort of my time, and he's the reason why this whole chaos deformation thing has happened. I think that would be a really good storyline. Yeah,
and it's kind of perfect too, because it shows everybody's that has betrayed Okada, the reason why they betrayed him is because of his success.
Yeah. Definitely.
And, with Jay going straight for the jugular, knowing the second that he stepped foot into chaos, telling Okada he was coming for him, and Okada just laughed at him.
Yeah.
And now it's like, who's laughing now, Okada? Now your entire stable, your best friend, the guy that was almost like your surrogate father for years, has stabbed you in the back. I've taken all of this, and now I'm going to take one more person away from you in Yoshihashi who feels the exact same way that I do.
Yeah.
And it's that perfect character motivation, And that's what you need. It doesn't need to be just any rhyme, just throw it out there randomly like, oh, the mole is show. Okay?
Yeah.
It's show, and it's just for a random reason.
Yeah.
It's
You've got
not
to give
for
it a
any
good
motivation.
reason to do it. Exactly. But that's sort of how I would see it. Courtney, I've got a question for you. You have a certain person called Jay White who is a big fan of a poem that you have written. Would you like to tell me more about the poem that you wrote?
Well, Kross actually started the ball on this because I was sitting there one night, and I used to write poetry and stuff like that when I was in high school and college, and I haven't written anything in years.
Yeah.
And so then one night, just start rhyming something about Kross, and then it just spilled out. And then ever since then, I've just kept going. And the poem that I wrote for Jay and his character, I kind of pictured it as something that almost someone could say in a video package or a promo.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of go about them. And the fact that he actually liked it, I'm not going to lie, I was about high as a kite for a few days because he never likes anything really.
No. He's the opposite to Kross. He's very inactive on Twitter unless it's storyline based.
Yeah, it's storyline based. Not only that, and too, I think he just, he wants his free time.
Yeah.
He isn't that big, as far as a social media guy.
Yeah.
Because it's really one or the other these days. It's really, somebody's really friendly and really interactive, or somebody is just, they're just on it just every now and again.
Yeah.
Just to check in, say I'm alive, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. But your poem, I've read it. It is fucking awesome. It is about the Switchblade Jay White and his character. I'm going to leave a link in the description anyway for people to check out, and I'll tweet it out as well because it needs more eyes, frankly. It's on a website, am I right in saying you've got your own website for it?
Yeah. It's Strong Style Poetry. That's all in one word. .wordpress.com. And that name came from, of course, my love of Pure Wrestle in Japanese, and then in Japanese wrestling and Japanese culture, period. Then it needed a tagline, and so I just said, let's get cutesy with it. Poetry about the graps that gets the snaps, as a tribute to the poetry jam sessions they used to have back in the day. And the graps, that's what we call it in the Brit wrestling, right?
Yep, that is true. Good old graps. But no, it's an awesome poem. I will definitely send out the links on the descriptions and also tweet it out because just like Jay White, I've thoroughly enjoyed it as well. How would you then go about this Jay White storyline once this ends with Okada? How would you book Jay White going forward?
Okay, so New Year's Dash, Naito has won the IC belt, right?
Yeah. And
instead of Jericho coming out and attacking him again, this time it's Jay, the Tongans, Jado, Gato, everybody is just out there to decimate him, and it starts this war between LIJ and the Bullet Club, OG. Because that's already kind of started in a way. When you remember Tama telling Evil and Sonata, I'm going to make you good, boy. Remember that? So we've already kind of started that in a way. So then piggybacking off of that, then we're going to have Jay going for that Intercontinental title, because now he wants that as a way to get redemption and right that wrong when he didn't win it from Tanahashi.
Yeah.
So you're killing two birds with one stone. And yes, I will still say that, PETA. Anyway, so that's how I would do it, and have him chase Naito for it for a few months, make his life hell, make LIJ's life a living hell, attack them backstage, do what you have to do. If we got to do another G1 of just the Bullet Club making New Japan's life a living hell to do this, do it.
Yeah.
And this way, Jay ends up winning it maybe sometime around
Dominion, maybe
Dominion or post G1, sometime in that time frame.
Yeah.
And have him go on a big run with it and elevate him and that belt at the same time, like we said earlier with Kross and the Never belt.
Yeah.
And use that as his stepping stone to his next feud of, if Okada maybe has the belt at that point, go after Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight title.
Yeah.
Use this as a journey, as a stepping stone, because we don't want to overload Jay too quickly and give him too much too soon.
No.
Because then that can have the burnout effect. We want to make this a slow burn kind of rise, and just New Japan's growing problem of Jay White that they're going to eventually have to be confronted with, because he started out the year as just the problem child that, that like Tana is just exasperated with at this point.
Yeah.
To now he's a legitimate threat. And you keep building upon that threat and making it even greater. And what I love about this whole Jay White and Bullet Club thing is that this goes back years.
Yes,
Jay White,
with Bad Luck Fale.
Jay White is basically the progeny of Prince Devitt.
Yeah.
Because Prince Devitt was the one who gave Jay White, a young Jay White, a New Japan business card and set him up and helped him get to the dojo with Fale.
Yeah.
And the Tongans. So this goes all the way back. And it's one of those New Japan Game of Thrones storyline deals where it's just, it's art in a way. Like this is just an artistically done storyline where you have this young up and coming villain who is gonna just take over and grab this company by the throat if he wants. Yeah,
definitely. I love Jay White. I love his character, and I like that. I like the sound of that.
I just this boy, like I'm like, how at this young, jeez, like the way that they're turning out these young kids, like Millie McKenzie, who's not even 20 years old yet, and you've got
she's outstanding,
and you've got Tony Storm and Jenny, and all of these young kids that are just. I'm like, at this point, we're going to be training them when they're 10 years old.
Yeah. No, very true. Wrestle Kingdom, then. Let's preview this this event, this outstanding card that we have coming up. Is there any matches that you're... It's a stupid question, really, because every match, like we said, is a main event to us. Is there any matches you're not looking forward to? Because to me, there isn't.
No. I'm looking forward to this entire card top to bottom.
Yeah.
And, I really want to see Suzuki win something for once. Because, as everybody knows on Twitter, I have a joke. I call Suzuki Dad.
Yeah.
Because I love him so much. And I think he really deserves and has earned for all the stuff that he does, on his free time to, helping out the young lions before he commits Young Lion Murder, that is. Working with them out in the ring before shows and everything. He deserves some respect, and his stable deserves to have some gold.
Yeah.
Instead of being the one that eats the pin,
Yeah. Well, they do currently have the Super Junior tag team belts, which they've had for a very long time. Do you think they will come out of Wrestle Kingdom with those belts?
See, that's a tough one to call. Like, those tag matches are so hard to call this year.
I agree.
Like, the one that I'm kind of more certain on is the IWGP Heavyweight, because I think that one's either staying on GOD or it's going to LIJ, one or the other.
Yeah. Don't think the Bucks are having it at all.
I don't think the Bucks are having it at all, because with all the All Elite Wrestling, smoke storm that's brewing with that, it's so tough. But I would love to see, of course, Lil Despy keep them belt.
The US?
Or wait. Doesn't Despy have the junior belt?
Yes.
In Suzuki?
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Calabaro.
Yeah, because I love Despy.
He is such a talent. When I've seen him live, I've really started to appreciate him. Definitely.
I love the way Despy is the perfect little best friend in Suzuki-gun.
Yeah.
Like, when they're trying to cause trouble and mayhem out in the crowd, he's the one that just grabs the referee away. Yeah. And it's just like, come here, let's take a walk. Nothing to see here.
So you think they're going to walk out with the belts?
I'm going to follow my heart and just say Suzuki-gun Ichiban. They got to do it.
Okay. I think they will get the belts on LIJ and Shingo for this match, the junior tag match. I think Shingo's come in, he's impressed a lot of people, and I think it will be a bit of a crowning moment for him. I mean, we've seen him recently have a match against Umino, was it? Shota Umino? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Which was an incredible match for someone who was wrestling a young lion, but that's also props to Shota Umino, who I think could be, we're looking at the next 5 years, one of the big New Japan guys. But I think, I reckon we're going to have a very good night for LIJ at Wrestle Kingdom. I've got a feeling we will come out with a new Intercontinental champion in Naito, and I think we're going to come out with junior belts on Bushi and Shingo. Whether we will get the heavyweight tag team belts as well, I would be more than happy for that to happen. But if I had to pick, I think they're staying on GOD, because I can't see them holding the 6-man tag at the start. So I think they'll keep the heavyweight belts. Yeah.
And speaking of LIJ, the rumors are going crazy that Hiromu might be at Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh, I'd love to see him.
And there was a video posted, I think Tanahashi posted on IG, where it showed where it may be Hiromu, but we're not totally 100% completely sure, of Hiromu possibly running the ropes at the dojo.
Wow.
So
that's
I'm
awesome.
Sitting here crossing all my fingers and all my toes. Come back to us, Hiromu, because I miss him.
I miss him so much too. That match he had against Taiji Ishimori for the Super Juniors final is my underappreciated match of the year, 100%. I love that match so much. I remember we watched it accidentally. So when I was trying to get my friends into New Japan, we were going to watch Dominion 2017 before we watched Dominion 2018 the weekend after. So I sat my friends, they all come up my house and said, right, let's try and find Dominion then. Could not work Dominion. Don't know why it didn't work, but 2017 Dominion did not want to load. Don't know why. Still to this day, I don't know, because the next day it worked perfectly. So I was puzzled. So I got so annoyed, and I said, "Oh, do you want to just watch the best of the Super Junior final instead?" They were like, "Yeah, fed up of trying to wait now on New Japan World. Wouldn't work because the app's very broken on the Fire Stick." So we just went with it. Went for the Super Junior final. Fuck me, I'm so glad that Dominion 2017 didn't work, because although we would have seen one of the greatest matches ever in Omega Okada, the 60-minute time limit draw, we got to see the Super Junior final, Hiromu Takahashi and Taiji Ishimori, in what a Super Junior final that was. And it really made me fall in love with Hiromu.
Yeah, and Hiromu is just so talented and just can just get in there, and if you blink, you're gonna miss something.
Yeah.
And I just hope that if he is coming back, and I just hope that maybe he's kind of gotten in there and maybe modified his style a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, I have the same concerns with Ospreay sometimes. You know, like, he just goes so hard and just
takes so many risks.
And everything, you know, and it's like, come on, guys, I know we want to go out there and we want to put on these amazing matches, but we got to start thinking about our bodies and,
yeah,
you know, how they're going to be when we're, you know, older.
Yeah, definitely. But now, if those rumors are true and we do see Hiromu at Wrestle Kingdom, what an ovation he's going to get. I did get very watery-eyed when LIJ was in the ring at G1, and they brought in his jacket and did the Tranquilo sign. That was a very heartfelt moment, I must admit.
Yeah, I cried, because both me and Hiromu have a bond, and that bond is cats.
Yeah.
We both love cats, and I even posted it up on my Instagram one day for his birthday, and I said, today's quote of the day comes from the birthday boy Hiromu Takahashi, who said that cats can truly save the world. Because I don't think he saw it, because I think he's been kind of, ever since he was injured, if it's not a diary entry or, you know, just something random, you know, you're really not going to hear from him.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot with Japan and injuries, because they don't really disclose anything to the detail that WWE does.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't really understand if that, as of yet, I don't understand this anyway. I don't know if that's a cultural thing of where just injuries and illness and sickness are just, you know, kind of cloistered from public view.
Yeah.
But it is kind of frustrating in a way, because, you know, like with a lot of the, you know, negativity that has come towards Kenny Omega. Fractured ribs, you know, it's never disclosed.
Yeah.
You know, so people can't know, hey, this is why they're taking a back seat. You know, that's one frustration I have with New Japan. It's just that they're not as upfront, and they're not as, you know, open with us about talent injuries, so that we know what's going on. You know, it's really up to the talent themselves to disclose that.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And it sort of gets you in the loop of, well, are we going to see them? When are we going to see them? That sort of thing, with New Japan and their injuries. But let's go back to Wrestle Kingdom then. Match that I'm probably most excited for, and it sort of became a dream match for a lot of people this summer / coming into the fall. And we're going to see it already. New Japan listened. We are going to see Will Ospreay take on Kota Ibushi for that never openweight belt. What do you think about this match, Courtney?
Of course I have to go with the Busan.
Yeah.
He just won that belt. He just got it, and for them to just take it off of him at this point, to me, I don't see really any value in it.
Yeah.
You know, this is a dream match as it is. So people are going to go home happy either way it goes. But, why take it off of Ibushi when you just gave it to him, and he's just had this banner year of reuniting with Kenny and, having this new chance with a belt in New Japan, despite the fact that he's a freelancer and runs away from a contract quicker than you can blink.
And that's at any company, not just New Japan.
Yeah, ask Vince McMahon.
Yeah. I mean, WWE have got to be kicking their feet that they couldn't sign Kota Ibushi after the year he's had. What a breakout year it's been. Not really for Kota Ibushi himself, but for people becoming aware of how good Kota Ibushi really is.
Yeah, he is so good. It's insane, which kind of fits him a little bit. All I got to say is this. New Japan had better tell him before that match, no jumping off balconies. We do not want to be banned from the Tokyo Dome.
Oh, that's true. No, I'm in agreement with you. I think Kota Ibushi will take this match and keep the Never Openweight belt, which I don't think is a bad thing at all for Will Ospreay. He's only just made the step up to heavyweight matches, so I think it's just a match for the fans, this one, and we're going to be in for a treat. And it's opening the Tokyo Dome after the Rumble, obviously. The main show, it is the opening match, I hear. So that is going to be pretty special for an opening match.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing that's going to wake us Americans up for sure.
Oh, yes. Yeah, if you're not awake before that match, you will be awake after, that is for sure. What about then, we've spoke about the Intercontinental match. We both think Naito will pick up the win there. What about the US title belt? We have Cody Rhodes, we have Juice Robinson once again. Who's taking this one for you?
I've got to go with Juice.
Yeah.
Because Juice, after the G1 that he had, the heartbreaking G1 that he had, where he wanted so much more and he had that hand injury and couldn't use his hand in matches. I think this is once again kind of a chance at redemption.
Yeah.
And a chance at solidifying himself as more than just the flamboyant guy that comes out and just likes to have a good time, that can actually go out there and work and get the job done. And I think him winning against Cody is the perfect way to do that.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that stops me from thinking that is that Cody is such a big star now, and to Western audiences, New Japan know that he's a big star, which I think why they put the belt on him. Cody also lost at last year's Wrestle Kingdom, obviously, to Kota Ibushi. That's the only thing that's sort of in my head putting doubts that Juice will win, because I do think Juice will take the title back off Cody. I suppose as well it has a massive thing to do with what the Bucks, the Elite, and Cody are all obviously doing after Wrestle Kingdom and after their contracts run out. So that's going to have a massive thing to do with it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of the match outcomes are going to tell us a lot about Kenny's future, the Bucks, Cody, all of those guys. I think a lot of these match results come January 4th are going to tell us a lot about the future.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. We've touched on other matches, but I want to know the main event for you. What do you think? We briefly mentioned it there. Kenny Omega versus the G1 winner, the Ace, Tanahashi. Who's winning this for you?
I want to say Kenny is going to retain, because I think this is in a way his crowning moment, because you have these two different ideologies of the older mindset of the elders of New Japan versus this new ideology of this gaijin who has come in and he has just turned this company on its head,
Yeah.
And for his way to be proven right and him to win is just a crowning moment. And maybe Tana will say, maybe you are right. and then move on to more of a more scaled back role in New Japan. Because I honestly think Tana needs that, because his body is just, starting to fall apart.
Yeah.
Him with that knee that he's always dealing with, and
the bicep.
And the bicep always taped up, I think this would be the perfect chance to do that. Yeah. And I think Kenny is going to end up signing a small extension, because up to this point I haven't heard anything as far as him being involved in the business end of All Elite Wrestling. I've heard mostly that being discussed for the Bucks and Cody.
Yeah.
So I think at least up until the point that they need him to come in, if he were to come in and leave New Japan for All Elite, I think he's going to sign a short-term extension and maybe be with them up to Dominion G1. Yeah. Maybe.
Possibly.
I don't think he's necessarily leaving the second, the clock strikes midnight on January 4th,
Yeah. I can't actually see him leaving New Japan at all. I genuinely think Kenny loves working Japan, and I think he's found a home in New Japan, and all the elite wrestling, I think, will be something that he will do as well as New Japan, because I think it would be very silly if Cody and the Bucks decide to make their company an exclusive wrestlers only. I think the reason why they have been so successful, and they know that, is because they've been able to work Ring of Honor, New Japan, all the companies that happen in England. And I seen Fight Forever Wrestling had Cody. If it weren't for the fact he was injured, he would have been wrestling. So we have all of these different companies that have made them successful on the independent scene, and I think it would be very silly of them to go against what made them successful and make their company itself exclusive just because WWE are. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think what made All In the big success that it was the fact that you had talent from, MLW, from Impact, from Ring of Honor, from New Japan, from
Progress,
Progress, and everywhere. You just had everybody just this one big co-op show, which is in essence what All In was. It was a co-op. It was a co-op labor of love between all of these other companies outside of WWE. And I think that's really what they're going to be going for. And that's why, they're discussing things like Cody wants a union for wrestlers, which I agree there should be at least something for wrestlers. We have too many injuries happening, and guys are caught flat-footed because, their booking fee pays their rent and their bills and everything else. So I think that they're going to make it very wrestler-friendly. I've been a fan of the Bucks. I don't know how long. It's been over a decade. And, I've seen them grow from when they were on Colors, which was a Dish Network satellite channel that maybe 5% of the subscribers of Dish Network got. And I stumble upon NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and I see these two young guys, the Bucks, and they're just doing all these crazy, insane high spots. And I'm like, and I said back then, and I want to say 1920 when I first found them. And I said, these guys are going to be huge one day.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to now, and just the thought of them having their own company with the son of Dusty Rhodes, it's one of those moments again where it's surreal, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And and Kenny also is recently, from what I hear, become a Japanese citizen.
Yep.
He lives over there. He speaks the language. He's fluent, more than I think a lot of Americans will ever be in their lives in Japanese.
Yep.
Loves the culture, loves the people.
Well, he lives the culture as well, and he's fully invested in the Japanese culture.
Fully invested. He's not just there just to make money off off that country and that company and just leave. He actually loves it, and it's a labor of love for him. So that's why I don't think that he's leaving. You know, a lot of people are just saying, oh, he's leaving, he's going here, he's going there. You know, like, you're not really sitting there and looking at all the evidence that you have up to this point. And all the evidence that you have points to him staying, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I think he will retain the belt as well. I do think Tanahashi, before he retires, will hold the belt one more time as a sort of thank you. I don't think it will be a very long time, but I do feel like this Wrestle Kingdom is not that time, because Tanahashi will still be around for a little bit longer. But I do think he'll hold it at some point. But I completely agree with you. For me, in my eyes, Kenny is staying. I don't think Marty Scurll would still be in Ring of Honor if we had an exclusive company with All Elite Wrestling. I think that is another thing to point at. Hangman Page is a bit of a weird one. I don't quite understand what's going on with Hangman Page. Maybe he will look more into doing more New Japan stuff as well as All Elite Wrestling, or maybe he has a bigger role in All Elite Wrestling that we just don't know about. But I think that's a very interesting subject, and come maybe January 5th, we'll have a little bit more of an understanding. Who knows? But
yeah, and
we're in a lot of mystery right now.
Yeah, and Matt posted, I think it was Matt, because it's normally him. He's the one that throws the grenades out there on Twitter and just makes everybody go mad.
Yeah.
Well, I bet Nick is just sitting there. Really? You just had to.
Yeah. So I had to open his big mouth.
So he posted a countdown clock with 5 days left on it.
Really? And what day does that end on? New Year's Day, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think we'll because doesn't it fall on the same day that Being the Elite releases normally?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because I think they do Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, because when I was at the Fight Forever Wrestling, Cody came out on the Bruce Pritchard Conrad Thompson show, and a girl named Dawn Gray, she's a follower, she put her hand up and asked Cody, cut to the chase, everyone's beating around the bush here, what are you and the Bucks doing? Is All Elite Wrestling happening, or are you going to WWE? And he said, obviously I can't explain anything now, but you just need to be watching Being the Elite, because it will all be answered on there. And all I can say is the biggest risk anyone has ever took in wrestling. Now, to me, going to WWE is not a big risk, because that's a guaranteed contract for stupid amounts of money. They will easily be the highest paid wrestlers ever. That's not a risk. A risk is starting your own company, going against WWE, and by the sounds of it, that's what he meant. And I think that's what we're going to see maybe January 1st, January 2nd, or January 5th.
Yeah, and to me there is so much smoke that there is an inferno when it comes to the AEW story.
Yeah.
You have the trademarks being filed, the copyrights, the Cody and Brandy being at the Jacksonville Jaguars game.
Yep.
You know, you just have all of this stuff happening. At this point, there is an inferno. We're no longer just seeing smoke.
Yeah.
There is some fire here, and there is something going on. And like we were discussing with Wilford this morning on Twitter, you know, I think that at least we're going to get another all-in event next year, another all-in type show, at least. Just
so this
to start
is another
off
thing as well, which adds to your smoke. At this event, we got to meet Cody, so I went and shook Cody's hand. I asked him to do like an introduction for me, just to say you subscribe to Omega Luke podcast, because obviously it's Cody Rhodes. Why wouldn't you want that? And when he asked me about my podcast, by the way, Cody is one of the nicest people in wrestling I've ever met. He had time for everyone, as did Brandy. She was also very nice. He turned around and said to me, "Have you spoke to Conrad and Bruce yet?" So I said, "Yeah, I have." And he said, "Well, I'm quite interested. You're from Britain. You have a wrestling podcast. If there is an All In 2, there will be a Starcast 2. Go speak to Conrad because we need more British representation. Now, I didn't go speak to Conrad because I couldn't just go up to Conrad Thompson and just be like, oh, hey, Cody told me I'm being part of Starcast. That's just, way out of my courage to do that. But the fact that he said that tells me that he wouldn't say that if there was no inkling of being an All In 2. And if he's joining WWE or anything like that, then there would be no way that there would be an All In 2. So, like you said, no smoke without fire. There's too much smoke. He wouldn't say these sort of things, I don't think, if there wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and like I said, I think if they are starting a company, they're not going to be able to get any type of television or structured television show together within a calendar year. So they're going to have to start out with something. And that something could be an All-In 2. It could be a, like how Jericho has his cruise, like an All-In cruise. It could be, anything just to keep the interest and keep the fires burning with the interest while you get your television deal together, while you get your roster together.
Yeah. Thinking on it, you saying that has sort of got my head thinking, and what came to me then is maybe them possibly doing live events throughout the year, probably on Fight TV. That's how they'd like to do it with like All In. They've got like a bit of a relationship struck up with Fight TV. Maybe they'll do live events across the country, maybe different countries, who knows, on Fight TV, just different events, sort of pay-per-view like, leading and carrying on a storyline, and they'll keep storylines going through Being the Elite, which will no doubt will grow more and be involved just as much as it was with All In and the storylines within All In, leading to an All In 2. And like you said, that could be the catalyst and the start of their TV deal or streaming service that they have, whatever way they go about doing it.
Yeah, and I just hope that they do have a streaming service or something, some form of revenue, because if somebody subscribes to your streaming service for like $10, and even if you get 100,000 subscribers, that's $1 million of income coming in.
Yeah, a month. Yeah. Which I could see happening easily.
I mean, you look at, and the reason why I throw out 100K is because you look at the New Japan numbers, you look at the numbers to different subscription services like Honor Club and Pivot Share and different things like that, and throw all around that number generally.
Yeah.
Some companies like Progress, of course, are going to have way more because they're Progress.
Yeah.
But, generally, you can safely bet upon that extra income coming in, and the fans will pay for it, because look at what they did with All In. The fans sold that thing out in 30 minutes.
100%.
So, there's a hunger there is a demand, and, at this point, like you said, the risk is starting on your own, not going to the safety of WWE where they have all that Fox money and they have all that USA money, where at this point, even though Balor and Anderson and Gallows aren't really being utilized that much, they're financially comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
They're not having to worry about the next set of bills and everything else.
Yeah, there is no risk. No risk. Well, Courtney, I thoroughly enjoyed this Wrestle Kingdom special. I think let's wrap it up there. We've covered a lot of ground here. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Can you tell the audience where people can find you on Twitter?
Okay, my Twitter handle is @Villainess Havoc. It's the word villain with ESS at the end, and Havoc. It's a tribute to two of my favorite UK independent wrestlers of all time, Marty Scurll and Jimmy Havoc.
There's a theme
course.
going on here, Courtney, isn't there? Really, of the type of wrestler.
Yeah, I'm definitely a heel girl.
Yeah.
I've always appreciated that more because it's so easy for you to just go out there and get the cheap hometown pop of "Hello, New York, New York," and everybody, of course, applauds. You know.
Yeah.
But to be a villain and to really get people to, hate you, sometimes with nuclear heat, to me, that's an art form.
Yeah.
That, it's easy to get people to like you. It's harder to make people despise you.
I agree. But yeah, make sure you give Courtney a follow on Twitter. She has great opinions and everything. But I'll tag her in everything and all the posts I do for this episode, as well as leaving a link to that website for your poem, to catch that Jay White poem and any other poems that you have on there as well. And hopefully you'll join me again in the future, Courtney. Was that something that you'd like to do? I'd love to have you back on.
Of course, I would love to. This has been fun.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much, Courtney, for joining me. Hopefully we'll hear you again soon. And with booking like that, by the way, look out for the fantasy booking champion. Because if you get a fantasy booking done like that, that's going to be tough to beat for a Killer Kross or a Jay White episode, that's for sure. But thank you very much for joining me once again, Courtney, and speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
This is Flip Gordon, and you need to subscribe to Omega Luke Podcast.